My name is Charlotte, and I'm 39 years old. In my town, people call me the strong woman, though not with admiration. To them, strength means smiling through tragedy, and I've done plenty of that. 2 years ago, my marriage ended quietly, painfully, like something that had been dying for so long that leaving felt more like a formality than a decision. But walking away didn't heal me. It just made room for the loneliness to grow louder in the empty spaces of my life. I work as a senior nurse in a small aging hospital where the hallways smell like floor polish and time seems to move more slowly than anywhere else. Every night follows the same pattern. Check vitals, change dressings, fill out charts, then return to an apartment that feels far too large for just one person. I wasn't searching for love. I wasn't even trying to feel anything anymore. Then Elias arrived, and everything changed in ways I never expected. He was in his early 40s, brought in after a tree fell on his car during a violent storm. His injuries weren't life-threatening, but he was shaken, exhausted in a way that went deeper than physical pain. When they wheeled him into my ward, I noticed something in his eyes. A weariness that suggested he'd been carrying burdens far heavier than anyone could see. But that first impression wasn't what made me fall for him. Not yet. During his first night in the hospital, he barely spoke. He just stared out the window at the rain, his expression calm despite everything. When I checked his bandages, he suddenly whispered something that caught me completely off guard. "You have the hands of someone who has suffered but learned to hide it well." His words startled me. No one had ever seen through me quite like that before. Still, being understood isn't the same as falling in love. The real moment came on his third night. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, had been admitted with a severe asthma attack. His parents were frantic, arguing loudly with each other while their son struggled to breathe. I was trying to calm the child when his mother suddenly collapsed, hitting the floor hard. The room erupted into chaos. I called for backup, but before anyone could arrive, something unexpected happened. Elias, with one arm still bandaged and fresh stitches across his chest, slowly climbed out of his hospital bed. His gown hung loosely off his shoulder. His face was pale with pain, but his voice remained steady and calm. He walked into our chaos without hesitation, kneeling beside the frightened boy, ignoring his own injuries. He spoke gently. "You're safe now. Look at me. Just breathe with me. In and out." And miraculously, the boy listened. He followed the rhythm of this stranger's voice, and his breathing began to steady. When the medical team finally rushed in, Elias quietly stepped back, almost embarrassed to be noticed. He didn't want credit or recognition. He simply returned to his bed as if nothing remarkable had happened. That moment shattered something inside me. Not because he helped, many people help, but because of how he did it. Softly, humbly, without needing to be seen as a hero. He acted from pure compassion, expecting nothing in return. Later that night, I went to check on him. His stitches had torn open from the effort of helping the child. He winced when I touched the wound, but didn't complain. "You shouldn't have gotten out of bed," I said quietly. He looked at me with those tired, honest eyes and asked, "Would you have stood by and watched a child struggle just to protect a wound?" I had no answer for that. Then he added something that cut straight through all my defenses. "You remind me of someone who saves everyone else but never lets anyone save her." No one had ever said something so painfully accurate about me. It wasn't romance or attraction in that moment. It was recognition. Two exhausted souls finally seeing each other clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. From that night forward, our conversations grew deeper. He didn't flirt or try to impress me. He simply existed in a way that made my loneliness feel less suffocating. That's why I fell in love with him. Not because I was weak, but because I finally met someone whose heart spoke the same quiet language as mine. On the day of his discharge, he stood in his room holding his bag with his one good hand. He looked at me for a long moment before speaking. "Charlotte, if life were kinder, I think we would have met years ago under different circumstances." I wanted to respond but couldn't find the words. Some truths are too heavy to carry in language. He walked slowly toward the door, then stopped and turned back to give me one last look. It was the kind of look that holds both goodbye and confession in the same breath. I stood in that empty hallway long after he disappeared down the corridor. My hands were trembling, my chest aching with a love that had nowhere to live, no future to call home. I loved my patient, not recklessly or foolishly, but in the quiet, devastating way that only hearts broken by life truly understand. He was gone, but something in me had awakened, something I thought had died years ago. And even though it hurt more than I expected, I was grateful. Grateful to feel again, grateful to know that underneath all my strength and armor, my heart was still capable of breaking beautifully for someone who truly saw me.